Hey guys, my name is Chelsea. We're going to be doing a 60-minute deep stretch class. The focus is going to be on back bends, so that's spinal extension. We're going to get started in what's called a supported fish posture. You can use a rolled up blanket, you can use a yoga block if you have one, or if you prefer, you could use a bolster or a pillow. But you're going to begin taking whatever it is that you're going to find underneath you and place it horizontally about 3/4 the way up your mat. And then begin to place whatever prop you have between your shoulder blades, right there at the thoracic spine. And then coil the upper back over whatever prop you're using to place your head down onto the ground. Begin to roll the tops of your shoulders towards the top of your mat. And then your arms are just going to come out beside you. Now, if you're using a prop that doesn't allow you to keep your head on the ground, you're going to have to switch it out for something that allows you to take your head down to your mat comfortably. You are going to find some extension into the throat, that Vishuddhi chakra, but the breath should still be able to flow through the throat, down into the heart and chest, all the way into your belly and diaphragm. See if you can roll the shoulders over the top edge of whatever prop is underneath you, resting your head a little heavier. And then you can arrange your legs in whatever way is most comfortable to you. You could extend your feet long. You could bend your knees, taking soles of the feet to the ground. If you wanted a little bit more into your inner thighs, find your Supta Baddha Konasana shape, sending soles of the feet to touch and butterfly your knees out to the side. Wherever you go, just allow the upper back to just be heavy on top of whatever prop you're resting it upon. Feel your inhales draw that breath in so deep that you feel the expansion of the chest with each inhale. And then the softness in the upper back as you exhale. Noticing if the breath is becoming constricted or stopping at the bottom of your throat. See if you can mindfully take it through the chest, diaphragm, and into your belly. So that each inhale is filling, it's expansive, it's long. And each exhale is equally long in depth and in length. And then we create this rhythm, this ebb and flow of the breath as we begin to find the space in the front of the chest, that extension in the thoracic spine. Feel the space, the back of your head becoming heavier into the mat. Feel the shoulders fall down and away. We're going to spend a few rounds of breath here. Taking long, cleansing inhales. Deep exhales. Resisting that urge to fidget. Allow the palms to flip upward. Allow the jaw to be soft. Let's spend just a few more rounds of breath, heavy in this shape. Finding that open heart, the mobility of the upper spine, the heavy head, the relaxed legs. With very minimal effort, take your thumb to your pointer finger, finding that Gyan mudra. Start to feel the energetic shift in your hands. Notice the heat of your palms. And now press that Pointer finger and thumb firmly together. Feel the engagement of the finger and the thumb. And then exhale, release, soften. Allow space to occur between your pointer finger and your thumb. We're going to take that 2 more times. You're going to draw your pointer finger and thumb together and squeeze. Feel the engagement, squeezing really tight. Exhale, soften the hands, soften the grip, and allow your fingers to release. 1 more time, make that connection, squeezing. Exhale, soften and release. From here, just start to draw some movement in your wrists, in your feet and ankles. Carefully send your arms beside your hips. And then with minimal effort, chin to chest, you're going to take whatever you have underneath your upper back and scoot it off and away and lie flat onto your back. From here, pull both knees into the chest, thighs the belly space. Drawing knees towards your sternum, you're going to press your low back firmly into your mat and find a little bit of movement side to side. Maybe pulling the knees in tighter to the chest to lift that tailbone slightly away from the mat, feeling a compression in those hip flexors. And then releasing hands from legs, set your feet down, heels in line with your sits bones, toes are directed forward, and you're going to grab whatever prop you are using underneath your upper back, and we're going to send it underneath your hips. So as you press into all 4 corners of the feet, begin to lift your hips away from the mat, coming into that bridge pose, and then begin to slide maybe a block, a bolster, or a blanket rolled up underneath the fleshy parts of your glutes. So I want to reiterate that whatever prop you're using is not on your spine. It is underneath your glutes. And the top of whatever prop you're using is right at the base of your tailbone. This is going to lift your pelvis up enough so that we can take pressure off of your sacral and lumbar spine, finding gentle traction. If you're looking for something a little bit more and you've got a block, or you could stack up a couple blankets, you can lift your hips and then take whatever prop underneath you and make it a little bit higher. The higher you lift the pelvis, the more traction you are going to feel into your low back. And the more extension you're going to feel into the front side of the body, that psoas, that hip flexor. You can stay here in the supported bridge, just softening your glutes and your legs. The other option would be to extend your feet to the bottom corners of the mat. Now, if you are a sufferer of sciatica or SI dysfunction, you may want to walk your feet very slow or forego the extension of the legs. If you really want to take the extension of the legs, but you find that your prop beneath you is too high, then you can switch it out for something else, maybe a more cushiony pillow or a softer blanket or a lower height of your block. Your legs are really heavy as your toes and thighs sway out to the side. And then from here, you can send your arms beside you, or you can take your arms up overhead, grabbing opposite elbows, begin to frame your head with your arms. Pressing your forearms and elbows deeply into the mat, maybe walking your hands up the triceps towards your underarms for a little bit more. That's going to draw the biceps closer into your ears, creating a little bit more resistance in that shoulder joint. Continue to press the forearms back. Continue to relax the body heavily on top of your prop, allowing your hips and pelvis to be entirely supported. And in these deep stretch positions, we manipulate the body in such a way that we don't have to do any work. It is the prop, it's gravity, it's the way that we place the body that does the work for you. So when you arrive into these shapes, just soften the body as much as you can, focusing on the breath, the sensations. Breathing into the front side of your body, your hips, your pelvis. Notice if you're holding any residual tension into the glutes or the thighs or the knees. and see if you can create softness. If you are framing your head, place the opposite forearm on top. Just switch it out so the second forearm is now the one making the most connection to the top of your mat. Press the elbows back, maybe walk your hands up the triceps if you're looking for more, plugging shoulders down away from your ears. We're going to take just a few more rounds of breath here. If your hands are still grabbing opposite elbows, release your fingertips to the back of the room and then draw your hands outside of your hips. Once your arms are stable, begin to bend one knee and then the other until the soles of the feet return back to the top of your mat. Stay here for a moment. Feel that tilt of the pelvis, the support of your feet and legs. And then pressing into your feet, lift your hips up and begin to roll down one vertebrae at a time. Now pull your knees in, give yourself a squeeze. Might feel a little bit better here to rock side to side, rounding the posterior chain after that extension. So this is the flexion portion, the counter stretch between extension poses. And then we are going to carefully roll to the side, or you can use momentum to come up onto hands and knees. If it is uncomfortable for your knees to be on your hardwood floor or mat, then take a blanket underneath your knees, providing a little bit of cushion, a little bit of buffer. Spread your fingertips really wide. So in standard cat and cows, we stack the joints, shoulders over the wrists and hips over the knees. We're going to take a deeper version of your cat and cows. So you're going to walk your hands about 4 to 6 inches out in front of you. Now guys with broader shoulders, you're going to have to take your hands fairly wide. Your fingertips could even reach far beyond the edges of your mat. So there's a little bit more weight now into your knees. We begin to shift that weight forward. We lower the hips down to the ground. As you pull the heart and chest between the gate of the biceps, lowering pubic bone to the ground, your gaze goes up. You start to find that extension of the spine as you press into the heels of your hands, lower shoulders down away from your ears. Now we start to find that flexion as you take your hips back. Drop your belly and your chest to your thighs and reach your fingertips towards the top corners of your mat, dropping head down between your arms. We're going to take cat and cows like this. You're going to lift up your head, look forward, come through hands and knees, lower hips down, pull chest forward, gaze goes up towards the sky. Exhale, we round hips to heels, rounding low back. And you're going to start to flow through these on your own, following the pace of your breath. Maybe you start to find that your hips can lower each inhale. Exhale, drawing your hips back towards your heels. Feel the wave of the spine as you move through these cat and cows. Taking a few more. The next time you come forward, dropping your hips down, pulling chest forward. If you want a different kind of movement, we can find a little lateral rock at the legs. You bend your knees, and you can windshield wipe right to left, sending your gaze over whatever shoulder towards your toes. Windshield wipe, releasing pressure into your low back. And then when your sides are even, you take your hips back towards your heels. Let's rest here in a child's pose. Draw your big toes to touch. Take your knees wide. And then reach your fingertips out to the top edge of the mat. Lower belly and heart, chest, forehead down. If this is too much for your knees or for your hips, place that rolled up blanket or some other prop beneath your heels or behind your knees. That's going to lower or decrease your range of motion so that your hips don't fall all the way back towards your heels. And then lower shoulders down away from the ears as you soften the body. We're going to spend a few rounds of breath here in this compressive hip position. If it's too much for your inner hips and thighs, you can take your knees closer together. If you want more depth, more space to fall between the legs, then send your knees wider, keeping your big toes touching. And then soften chest and heart down. So here we're spreading the low back, taking any pressure off of the low spine. Stretching the ankles, the hips, the quads. Taking a few deep rounds of breath. If you're looking for more, you can always take your palms to touch. For your hands, draw your thumbs to the nape of your neck, the base of your skull to get that tricep stretch. I'm going to keep my head up just so I don't smush the mic. Got a couple different options if you want a little bit more into the back sides of your arms. Maybe the chest can fall further towards your mat. Resist that urge to fidget. It's about halfway through that the position actually begins to work the moment that you wish to leave it. You might feel those hip flexors tighten up. You might feel a deep stretch into the inner thighs. Maintain the breath. Let's take 2, 3 more rounds of breath. Your thumbs are at the base of the skull. Re-extend your hands. Look to the top of your mat, and we're going to come back up to all fours. So you're going to slide your wrists underneath your shoulders, lift your hips from your heels. We come back into tabletop. So we're going to travel the wrists back underneath your shoulders like a standard box position. And then weight goes into that left knee. You may want to draw it closer into the center for balance as you send the right toes to the back of the mat. Now you're tucking all 5 toes underneath. You start to feel a stretch into the underside of that right foot, the Achilles tendon and the calf. Know that the more that you press into the heels of your hands to draw that right heel back, the more you're going to feel the stretch into the back side of the leg. Now this is just a precursor for where we're going. If you'd rather just stay here working the back of that right leg, the hamstring stretch, then you can. We're going to start to lift up that right heel, coming into your half spinal balance. Now you begin to send the left arm forward. Really reach and extend. Find that balance. Now we're going to work to open up the shoulders and open the back as you bend that right knee, reaching back with that left hand. If you cannot locate your ankle or your foot or your toes, you can use a strap or something in lieu of the strap. And then from here, you're going to kick that right foot into that left hand and start to open up the chest. Now, I find it easier to send the gaze down to the mat, something to focus on, maybe something on your mat. But you really want to press that right hand or right foot into that left hand as you begin to find that balance between that right palm and left knee. We're not going to be here long. This is a pretty active stretch. So kick and open. Find the open left side of the chest. 3, 2. We release and just re-extend on your inhale. And then send left hand down, send right knee down. Walk your knees underneath your hips. Now we're gonna work upper body, upper spine, once again, coming into your extended puppy dog pose. You start to crawl your hands forward. Keep your hips over your knees, dropping forearms, dropping elbows. Don't let the elbows splay out to the side. In fact, roll the eyes of the elbows up, keeping your wrists in line with elbows and shoulders. Lower your heart and chest down for that extended puppy pose. Some of you just might drop your head down. If your head is hovering and you want support, grab a hold of that blanket and place your third eye down upon it. If you're very flexible, maybe your chin comes to the ground and you can take your chin to the ground, taking your gaze to your fingertips. Now again, I'm not going to smush this mic, so I'm going to stay kind of upright here. The tendency here is to let your arms travel out to the side, your elbows to bend. You want to continue to internally rotate the elbows up, lower shoulders down away from the ears, create that scoop, that concavity in the upper back. As we take pressure off of the low spine, you lower chest down. So now we're working that extension of the upper spine, similar to how we did when we started practice with that supported fish pose. This is just a little bit more active. Where we were laying upon the block before, we're creating that concavity in the upper back by using gravity to lower the chest towards the mat. Head is heavy. Deep breaths. Let's take 3 to 5 more rounds. Begin to look forward. Start to walk your hands back up underneath the shoulders. Come back to tabletop. You could take a little protraction, retraction of the shoulder if that was a lot in the shoulder joints. And then walk that right knee to center for additional balance and send the left toes to the back edge of your mat. Tucking all 5 toes underneath. Actively press the back left heel to the back of the room by really pressing into the heels of the hands. You start to feel the stretch into the underside of the foot, the heel, the calf. Know that you could stay here or begin to lift that left heel up to half spinal balance. Weight goes into that left hand, right arm floats forward. This is that full spinal balance. Bend that left leg. We reach back with that right hand, locating left foot. If you need to use a prop to do so, you can. Press into that left foot, into that right hand, and begin to open up that right shoulder and chest. Finding that back bend, you find that balance with your gaze down. Good, engage the belly. If it's too much, just keep it down here. You're still getting the extension of the spine, the stretch in the quad as we go for 3. For 2. I'm going to get you off of your wrists after this. Release right hand from left foot, extend and lengthen. And then set right hand down, set left knee down. Shake it side to side. And as promised, we're going to come down onto your belly to get you off of your wrists. So as you shift forward, come onto your stomach here. I might have to rearrange my mic in just a second. We're going to come into a Sphinx pose. So you're going to draw your elbows underneath your shoulders, wrists in line with your elbows, spreading fingertips really wide. Press into your forearms, track the heart and chest forward, and lower shoulders away from your ears. So now again, we're finding that extension of the spine, and then reach your gaze up towards the sky. The most common thing I see here is elbows towards the rib cage, and you can't find that lift of the chest. So look down, ensure that wrists are right below your shoulders. Wrists in line with elbows, you're making that perfect little box shape. And then you work to track the heart forward. And then you send your gaze up. Now some of you might wish to stay here. We're going to take a little neck stretch if you would like to work out the cervical spine. Drop your chin to your chest here, keeping the chest lifting forward towards the chin. And then you can find a little rock side to side. Right ear, right shoulder. Left ear, left shoulder. Just moving side to side. If there's an area of tension you wish to hold into a little bit longer, you can. Lift the chest forward, take an inhale, and then lower down onto your belly. Take a moment here with just your head resting upon your forearms. Breathing into your belly. So our second round, we're going to work to take it a little bit further. When you're ready, you're going to come back up onto your forearms. So starting in that Sphinx pose, option to take this into your seal pose, pressing into your hands, lift your elbows, and then send your gaze up towards the sky. The pubic bone stays firmly rooted into the mat. Then if you need more from here, you walk your hands back towards your hips. Now not if your shoulders are coming into your ears. You want to continue to roll them down, pull the chest forward. And then some of you who have a lot of spinal mobility might prefer to bend your knees, taking your toes towards your head. That is just an option. If not, just stay here. Walking your hands in further. If coming into the seal pose is too much into the back, then stay in your Sphinx position. Holding for a count of 3. Count of 2. And then come all the way down onto your belly. As you come down onto your belly, send your arms out to the side like a T. Right ear is going to come down. Make sure that that right wrist is in line with that right shoulder. Bending left elbow, bending left knee. We roll to the right side of the body and the head goes down onto the ground. So we're finding that chest stretch here. The left foot comes behind that extended right leg. Left hand can plant in front of the heart and chest. If you don't need the support of that left hand, you can wrap it to your low back, palm facing up. You can even send your gaze up towards that left shoulder too. A couple options to make this more intense should you need it. You can bend both knees, working to take that left glute towards the mat. If you're still not feeling a whole lot into the front of the chest, come out for a moment and make a cactus arm with that right hand, meaning your elbow's still in line with the shoulder, but that your wrist is in line with the elbow. That's going to decrease your range of motion significantly. Wherever you're at, your head is entirely relaxed. Deep breaths into the belly. Maybe you can start to lean, splay open that left knee to the back of the room a little bit more to find some more space into that right shoulder. Compression between your shoulder blades, your scapula. Wherever that left hand is, place it down in front of your heart and chest. And then come down to your belly. Nice and slow as we unravel. We take that second side. Left arm extends, left wrist in line with the shoulder, left ear goes down. Bending right elbow, bending right knee. We roll to the left side of the body, keeping that left ear and temple onto the mat. Head is down, your right hand is maybe in front of the heart, or it can wrap to the low back. Palm can face up. Same options here, more support, right hand on the ground. More intensity, you can take that cactus arm with this left hand, or you could bend that left knee, working to draw that right glute further down to the mat. Your head stays heavy. Left palm is on the ground. Maybe your eyes close. Your breath moves all the way down to your navel. As you feel the rise and the fall of your chest, your belly. You start to place that right hand back down as we come all the way back down to your belly. You're going to grab for a pillow, a blanket roll, or a bolster, and we're going to lift up the chest, and you're going to take that bolster underneath your rib cage, kind of at the base of your sternum, so that you have like a little supported back bend here. And then grab for your strap, or whatever you're using in lieu of a strap. That could be your kid's jump rope, the tied to your bathrobe. And you're going to want to unravel it if it's rolled up and keep it nearby. So just like we did earlier, this time you have a supported Sphinx pose. Your chest, your rib cage, your sternum is all supported against that bolster or blanket, or maybe you've got a couple pillows underneath there. And we're going to want that. That's going to give you that support that you need, that lift of the chest, that we can focus there on your low body. So you're going to start to bend that left knee, taking that left heel in towards your glute. Now you've got the support underneath your chest, and you've got the support of the right hand, so you're going to take that left hand and grab a hold of that left leg. We begin to navigate that left heel in towards the glute, being mindful that your thighs aren't splaying out away from one another. You want to continue to draw them in towards the midline. Now, a few options here, just because there's always different levels that take deep stretch. This is a really good place to just stretch your quads, open up your chest. You've got a nice support system underneath your heart, so there's not a lot of weight on that right shoulder. If you're looking for more, grab that strap and loop it around that left foot. Now you take both ends of your strap over that left shoulder. So you kind of have a little method of a tug here. Your thighs zip up together, and you can start to tug this here. The other option would be to lift up that left thigh and then start to lift your left toe towards the back of the head. If you feel like you're pressing firmly into that bolster to where your hips are lifting, you can always move it out of the way, laying on your belly, and then you can start to find that stretch, that back bend stretch over that left shoulder. You pull, keep lifting through the chest. Remember, this is a lot, so you can always drop that left thigh down. Just take the stretch here, keep the chest lifted. Lots of options. If you want to see this pose without the bolster, I'll show you. You come onto your stomach, you use that strap, and you take your left toes to the back of the head. You can lower your head down. Try to keep that right hip firmly rooted into your mat. Hold for 3. For 2. And 1, slide your hands up the strap. Release whatever you have in that left foot. Straighten out that left leg. Now if you moved the bolster and you liked starting with that, take it back underneath your sternum and chest. Sitting up nice and tall. And then from here, we begin to bend that right leg. Right heel towards that right glute. Right hand goes back. You draw that right heel in towards your hip. Squeezing inner thighs together, open up that right shoulder. Nice way to just stretch out the quads. Then if you went further, you're going to take that strap, loop it around the top of that right foot, send both ends of the strap over that right shoulder, and you can just start to tug on the strap so that that right heel navigates towards your hip. You have the option of making this more intense by lifting that right thigh up and then pulling through that strap, trying to guide your right toes toward the back of the head. So if you've got a vinyasa practice and you have been working into dancer's pose or even any kind of scorpion, this is a great exercise so that you can start to reach your toes towards your head. Finding that deep extension of the spine. Again, you can remove the bolster if you found that to be more helpful to take your right toes towards the back of the head. Keep drawing thighs in towards the midline. Don't let that right knee splay out. Keep the hips on the ground. You got it for 3. For 2. And 1, slide your hands down. Free that right foot up. Straighten out the right leg. Take the strap off to the side. If you moved that bolster, let's take it back underneath the chest. So we're going to combine the 2 legs coming into a supported bow. So the support is where this bolster or blanket or pillow is underneath your sternum. And then your quads are open so that you can bend both knees, taking your heels to the glutes. You've got the support of the bolster so that you can reach your hands back, locating your feet. We have set the body up for this spinal balance. Now you may just be here, reaching your toes to the back of the room to open up the front of the chest, broadening the clavicle, and then trying to reach your knuckles to the back of the room. If you need a little bit less, you can lower the chest down and just draw your heels towards your glute. So this is your supported bow. You can walk your hands up and down the shins to see where it works for you. Feel the breath into that bolster. Feel the expansion to the front of the chest. Keep reaching your toes and your knuckles to the back of the room. Let's go for 3. Last 2. And 1, release your hands from your feet. Just lower your head down. You're going to keep your bolster where it's at. Big toes touch. Send your hips back towards your heels. Child's pose. This should feel very good on your low back. And you can drape your forearms over whatever was underneath your sternum and allow your wrists to dangle and allow your head to fall. If you have that right arm still on top of something, let's thread that left arm underneath. Left palm is up. And you work to take the head and that left ear down to the ground. as you just thread that left bicep underneath the chest. I'm going to stay upright, but your head's going to come down if you can manage. You can always scoop that bolster in or blanket so that you have something to place your head upon. So we just opened up the clavicle. This is going to be our counter stretch, pulling the scapula away from one another. Oh, you probably didn't hear that because of my mic. We unthread left arm, take it forward so that we can go into that second side. You're going to thread that right arm under, right palm is up, dropping your head down, right temple, right ear. Keep taking that left underarm towards the right elbow crease, keeping your upper body squared, and then folding a little bit deeper. Take your right ear down. Okay. Good, now pulling that right shoulder blade away from the midline, the spine. We unthread right arm from left, and then we come up to all fours once again. So final positions here into this back bend. Let's go ahead and just move that bolster out of the way. If you'd like something underneath your knees, go for it here. We are going to come all the way up. Now, I like if you have something to place it in between your thighs. A block is a really good width, but if you just have a blanket, or you don't need anything, you just want to make sure that your knees are underneath your hips. They have a tendency to start to travel to the edges of your mat. Something to engage in your inner thighs will keep your pelvis nice and stable. And then you're going to take your hands to your low back. You can find fists here. I'm going to turn around for just a second. You can find fists and send them into your SI joints. Those little dimples in your low back. You could always take your fingertips down like you're putting your hands into back pockets. If you've got the motility of your wrist, you can take your fingertips up, taking the heels of the hands down towards your SI joints. So finding whatever position of your hands works best for you, we're going to work into camel pose. You broaden the chest. You draw your elbows together. Your hips stay stacked over your knees as you begin to open up your chest, sending your gaze up. You press your pubic bone and pelvis forward, open up the chest, send your gaze up high. Take a deep round of breath. Maybe leaning back a little bit further. Keep squeezing that block if it's in between your legs. Think less about jumping into your low back and lifting out of the chest. And then your inhale is going to take you up. Your counter stretch is going to be a twist. We place that right hand down. Now we thread that left arm underneath. Left ear comes down. Right hand can wrap to your low back. You want to take the pressure off of your low spine by placing the weight into your head. You got it, your head down. Keeping hips stacked on top of the knees. Find a rotation of the spine. And then take that right hand back in front of your face. Left arm goes high, little counter stretch. Left palm comes down. One more camel pose. This is going to be the last of our back bends. We're going to rise back up onto the knees. So same thing, position your hands accordingly, fists, fingertips down or fingertips up. Roll the shoulders down. Now, if you're working, you think you want to grab to your heels, you might want to start by tucking your toes underneath. That's going to elevate your ankles towards you. Lift up through the heart and chest. Begin to coil up and through the upper back, finding that back bend in camel position. Now, some of you might wish to take your hands down to your heels or to your ankles. Finding camel pose, you can drop your head down if you've got a healthy spine and neck. Keeping your hips stacked over your knees. Good. Take 3 to 5 more rounds of breath. Lead with your head, take your chin to your chest and come back up. Hands go down, taking pressure off of low back. Left hand plants, we're gonna thread that right arm underneath, lowering right ear down to the ground. Find the rotation, left arm can reach forward. It can wrap to your low back. Let's place that left hand down in front of your face. Press into the left palm, right arm goes high, counter twist. And then lower right hand down. If you still have that block or something between your legs, go ahead and remove it. Drop down onto your hips and extend your feet out in front of you. Now we are going to take a forward fold Apache-Mottanasana. I teach it in deep stretch with your feet hip distance apart, which gives you enough width between your legs and thighs if you would like to stack some blankets or a couple of pillows to find a more supported forward fold. You can keep a little micro bend in your knees, but flex your toes back to the crown of the head. Take the flesh out and away from your sits bones so that you can tuck that pubic bone down. Lengthening through your tailbone, sit up nice and tall. And then as we exhale, we start to hinge from your hips, forward fold, keeping your back nice and straight. Now here, we want to find a release in the low spine by drawing your navel to the thighs. So if you're wanting to make this more supportive, you can start to stack bolsters, pillows, blocks, blankets underneath you so that you can fold down on top of something. We're going to be here a minute, so find yourself in a place that allows you to rest comfortably. Keep drawing your toes back to the crown of the head. Keep sending your breaths all the way down to your tailbone. This is our counter pose, our final flexion of the spine. Allow your upper body to be heavy. Just gently start to lift your body away from your props or your thighs out of that forward fold. You're just going to keep a bolster nearby. Bend your knees so that you can slide that bolster, pillow, blanket roll, whatever you have underneath the backs of your legs so that you find a bend in your knees and they are supported. Allow your feet to come wide, wider than your pelvis, wider than the width of your hips, and then we're going to come down onto your backs. You make yourself as comfortable as you can coming into your Savasana. You can place a pillow behind you. You could elevate your feet. You just start to come down. Send your arms out to the side. Close your eyes and soften your glutes. And begin to relax. Oftentimes, a backbend practice can be very energizing. If you are finding it unable calm down, or if you're unable to be still, you may benefit from sending your feet up to a wall, finding a waterfall, feet up the wall for just a little bit to ground yourself, to ground the practice. Please know that you could stay into Savasana a little longer if you'd like. If you're ready to move on, begin to wiggle out fingertips and toes. Move wrists. Move ankles. Bend elbows, extend knees. And if your position allows, reach your arms overhead. And exhale, pull your knees to your chest. Carefully rolling to whichever side feels best for you, coming into a fetal position. You could stay here as long as you like. Coming up to a seated pose when you're ready, keeping your eyes closed. Sitting up tall. Allow your thighs to rest, or your hands to rest upon your thighs. Take your arms beside you, palms up, and as you inhale, let's gather up all that energy in which we've created, sealing it together at the top with your palms to touch. Then draw that energy down, taking your thumbs to the heart space as we seal it in. And then take your thumbs to third eye center, bowing together. We honor one another and say, Namaste.